The knock came at the exact moment his heart decided to believe again, and for a brief, fragile second, the world felt kinder than it had in years. Sunlight poured through the thin curtains of the small living room, catching dust in the air like floating embers, and Jarrett Cole stood at the door with a hopeful smile he barely recognized as his own. He had shaved carefully that morning, pressed a clean shirt, even moved the stack of unpaid bills off the coffee table, because today mattered. Today was supposed to be the start of something new. His hand turned the knob, excitement warming his chest, and that was when everything changed. She stood there with nervous eyes and a gentle face, and before he could speak, she leaned closer and murmured that her children were outside. In that instant, the past rushed back like a wave he thought he had already survived. Before the story unfolds any further, pause for a moment. If you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in the quiet miracles that happen when people choose compassion over fear, please like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to our channel, Kindness Touch. Your support keeps these stories alive. Jarrett had not planned to be a single father by 36, and certainly not the kind who measured life in school drop-offs and grocery discounts. Years earlier, he had imagined a louder house, a shared laughter echoing off walls, but life rewrote that plan without asking. When his wife passed away after a sudden illness, the days became quieter and heavier all at once. Their son Milo was only 6 then, small enough to still believe that the sun followed him because it liked him best. Jarrett learned how to braid cereal mornings with bedtime stories, how to be both strong and soft in the same breath. He worked mornings at a printing shop downtown, the kind that smelled like ink and old paper, and afternoons were spent racing against the clock to pick Milo up from school before the bell echoed too long in an empty hallway. The idea of dating again felt almost disloyal at first, as if moving forward meant erasing the love that came before. But loneliness is a patient thing. It sits beside you quietly and waits. After years of routine and responsibility, a co-worker convinced him to try a community event, a daytime charity book fair in the park. That was where he met Rhea Linton. She had a soft laugh that didn't ask for attention and eyes that carried stories without demanding to tell them. They spoke between folding tables and donated novels, sunlight warming their shoulders, and something gentle began to grow. It wasn't fireworks, it was steadier than that. It was the feeling of being understood without explanation. They kept things simple, coffee during lunch breaks, walks in the park while Milo played within sight. Rhea never pushed, never rushed, and that patience felt like a gift. Jarrett knew she had a past, but he didn't pry. He had learned that everyone carries something heavy, and not all burdens need to be unpacked right away. When she suggested coming over one afternoon, just to talk, he agreed with a mix of nerves and hope. Milo was spending the day at a friend's house. The apartment was quiet, the sun was high. For the first time in a long while, Jarrett felt like a man again, not just a survivor. So when he opened the door and heard that she had children waiting outside, his first reaction was confusion, followed by a sudden tightening in his chest. He hadn't known. Or maybe he had known and hadn't asked the right questions. He glanced past her shoulder and saw them, 3 small figures standing on the sidewalk in the bright afternoon light. They looked uncertain, clutching backpacks and holding hands like anchors. The oldest boy stood protectively in front, chin lifted too high for someone his age. The youngest girl leaned into her sister, eyes wide with fear and curiosity. Rhea's face held an apology she didn't say out loud. Life had taught her caution. After losing her husband to an accident 2 years earlier, she had learned that trust was fragile. Her children, Kyle, Nori, and little Sailor, were her whole world. Every decision passed through the filter of their safety. She had wanted to tell Jarrett sooner, but fear has a way of delaying the truth until it feels unavoidable. She had rehearsed explanations in her head all morning, watching the clock tick closer to this moment. Jarrett felt the weight of the situation settle over him, heavy but not crushing. He thought of Milo, of how protective he had become, of the nights he lay awake wondering if he was enough. He saw the same worry mirrored in Ria's eyes. This wasn't deception, it was survival. The silence stretched, filled only by the hum of traffic and the distant sound of children laughing somewhere down the block. In that pause, Jarrett realized something important. This was not a door closing, it was a door opening wider than he had expected. He stepped aside and gestured for them to come in. The apartment suddenly felt smaller and warmer all at once. Shoes lined up by the door. Backpacks rested against the wall. The children moved cautiously, like guests in a museum, afraid to touch anything. Jarrett knelt to their level, introducing himself without fanfare, and offered them juice and crackers. It wasn't grand, but it was sincere. Ria watched, her shoulders slowly easing as the children relaxed. Milo's toys lay scattered in one corner, and soon curiosity overcame fear. Kyle picked up a small action figure. Nori smiled at a framed photo of Milo missing his front tooth. Sailor laughed softly when Jarrett pretended not to notice her sneaking an extra cracker. The afternoon unfolded without a plan. Sunlight shifted across the floor. They talked about favorite cartoons, about school projects, about the best way to build a pillar fort. Jarrett felt something unfamiliar bloom in his chest. Not replacement, not erasure, but expansion. Love, he realized, was not a finite thing. It could stretch, it could grow, it could make room. Later, when the children sat coloring at the table, Ria finally explained her hesitation, her fear of bringing chaos into someone else's carefully rebuilt life. Jarrett listened, not to respond, but to understand. He spoke of his own doubts, the nights he wondered if happiness was something he was allowed to want again. Their stories overlapped in grief and resilience, two roads meeting at a quiet intersection in the middle of the day. Challenges didn't vanish. Blending lives never does. There were awkward moments, schedules that clashed, and the constant worry of hurting children who had already lost too much. But there was also laughter that filled the apartment, shared meals that felt like small celebrations, and a sense of teamwork that made the hard days lighter. Milo met Ria's children weeks later, and while jealousy flickered, it was met with patience and reassurance. Jarrett learned that being a father didn't mean standing alone. It meant building something together, piece by piece. Time passed in measured steps, trust deepened. The apartment changed, slowly transforming into a home that reflected more than one story. Extra shoes by the door. More drawings on the fridge, louder afternoons. Jarrett found himself waking up with purpose that went beyond survival. Ria found space to breathe, to imagine a future that wasn't defined by loss. The children found stability in routines and warmth in consistency. Near the end of that summer, they spent a day at the park where Jarrett and Ria first met. The sun was bright, the sky wide and forgiving. The children ran ahead, their laughter carrying on the breeze. Jarrett watched them, a quiet awe settling over him. He thought about the moment at the door, the fear he could have chosen, the life he might have closed himself off from. Instead, he had chosen kindness. And kindness, it turned out, had chosen him right back. If this story is touching something inside you, if it reminds you that love can show up in unexpected forms and second chances often arrive disguised as challenges, please take a moment to like this video, share it, and let us know in the comments how it made you feel. Your engagement helps stories like this reach hearts that need them. Just before this story ends, we have one special request for you. Please comment the word kindness if you believe that opening your heart, even when it's scary, can change lives. As the afternoon faded into evening, Jarrett stood at the window, watching the children play one last game before heading inside. The light softened, but it never disappeared completely. He realized that happiness wasn't about perfect timing or flawless plans. It was about answering the door with courage, even when you don't know what's waiting on the other side. And sometimes, when you do, you discover that the life you were afraid of embracing is the very one that was meant for you all along.